Hold on. Gotta lower things so that... Hi, I'm Rachel, and welcome to my channel. This is my book club. Vampires are my special interest book club. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Wait, no, I'm gonna need this actually. Normally I move my keyboard, but I'm going to need it. So, yeah, today I wanted to finish off the book that we had already finished, but the Mammoth Book of Vampire Stories by Women, edited by Stephen Jones. I thought it'd be really fun if we did like a full ranking video of it. Because there's 35 stories. There's a lot of stories to think about and talk about and stuff. I wanted to do that before I moved on to the next book, so here I am doing that. Welcome, hello. I'm gonna do it all. I got a tier ranking on paint. God, I feel so old. People like pull up Photoshop or whatever to do this, and I'm like, no, we're using word paint, okay? Thank you. It's not complicated. I know how to type in words on here. See, it's easy. Done. Whee. Okay, delete. Oh fuck, what did I do? Oh no, maybe it's not that easy. So I have been wanting to do this for a little bit now. We only finished this book like 2 weeks ago, 3 maybe now. I kept telling myself I wanted to like be more like detailed and clear with like I wanted to like highlight my favorite lines in the story so there was something at least good to say even if I didn't particularly like the story. The problem is my ADD brain. I'm struggling so hard to read, to finish freaking anything when I'm not on camera. I read it on camera, but I didn't think about doing this until I was pretty much done with the book. I made it through maybe not even the first half, honestly. I don't think I even made it halfway before I decided to say, screw it, we're doing the ranking video even if all of my little notes aren't finished. What I'm trying to say is the first half of this video is going to be like, I like this quote and I like this quote and here's a little post-it saying what I did and didn't like about it. And then we're going to hit like story 15 and it's going to go off the rails. But hey, I mean, who doesn't like a ranking that doesn't go off the rails, right? God, as long as I can remember what the frickin' story is about without too much trouble. Okay, so first thing is an introduction, and I don't care about ranking that. I'm not ranking the introduction. It's not a story. I don't care. I'm not gonna mess with like S, A, B, C, D, E, whatever. You all know. S is the best. F is the worst. But maybe we should lower it to like 5, because 7 is a little too many. This is why we have paint, because we can do this. Oh god, what did I do? Delete. Everything below D doesn't exist. Congratulations to me. The first story, The Master of Rambling Gate by Anne Rice. Let's see. I really liked the vibe of the story, that it was an old school gothic tale. Let's see. Rambling Gate. It was so real to us in the old pictures, rising like a fairy tale castle out of its own dark wood, a wilderness of gables and chimneys between those two immense towers, gray stone walls mantled in ivy, millioned windows reflecting the drifting clouds. I thought that was pretty. Hold on. I should move this so I can actually see people talking to me. Yeah, like, and it was late afternoon when the old trap carried us up the gentle slope from the little railway station, and we had our first real look at the house. The sky had paled to a deep rose hue beyond a bank of softly gilded clouds, and the last rays of the sun struck the uppermost panes of the leaded windows and filled them with solid gold. Oh, but it's too majestic, I whispered, too like a great cathedral, and to think that it belongs to us. I clearly just like the vibe of Ramplingate. Like, I get why they struggled so hard at the beginning of this, or I just struggled through so hard to let go of Ramplingate, the property, the way that their father also struggled to let it go. Nothing, in fact, troubled the serenity of the days that followed. Long walks through the overgrown gardens, trips in the little skiff to and fro across the lake, tea under the hot glass of the empty conservatory. Early evening found us reading and writing by the library fire, and you can even tell when I gave up on marking where my little quotes are. I did not get far at all. My arms closed about him, my hands slipping into the soft silken mass of his hair. I was floating, and there was, as there had always been at Ramplingate, an endless peace. It was Ramplingate I felt enclosing me. It was that timeless and impenetrable secret that had opened itself at last. A wordless voice spoke from the starry veil of heaven. It sang in the wind that rushed through the broken timbers. It sighed in the flames that ate at the sooted stones of the hearth. It was the eternal rhythm of the universe that played beneath every surface as the last living creature in the village, that tiny child, fell silent in the maw of time. So fun and dramatic and gothic. A treat to read. I'm really glad it was a short story and not forced into being a book, because there isn't really much here. Let's see, what did I say? A beautiful fairy tale castle their father wants them to demolish now that he's dead. I love the imagery of this old crumbling mansion. Love the vibe of a gothic romance, but feel nothing for the actual romance. Yeah, it wasn't like, I'm not an insta-love type of person, and they seem to just make eye contact and be in love, basically. Entranced with each other from the moment they met. It's just not my vibe. I'm not gonna say it's a middle. I'm gonna say it's an A. I'm gonna say it's an A tier. I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed rereading it, even though it was a slog to make myself read frickin' anything. Bastard of Rambling Gate. I think I can make it opaque. Yeah. And then maybe I can move it around. There we go. Our first one. Done. Check. If you disagree, feel free to fight me in the chat. I do think this is one of the better stories. Oh, story 2, I never read on stream. You will only know of it if you already own this book. It's Homewrecker by Poppy Z. Brite, and it is way too horny for me to read. It like, most of it is a blowjob or something. I'm not interested. Sorry. We're going in D here. D, which is exiled and too creepy to read. Wrecker. I think it's just Homewrecker. Yeah. Poppy seems, of the 2 things I've read by him, too creepy. Too creepy in a bad way. What is it? Affectionate? Not affectionate? Disrespectful. Disrespectfully. There is a few of these in here. At least 2. But we'll get there, won't we? Yeah, I'm not reading any quotes from that. No. If you want porn, look it up yourself. I'm not gonna read your porn to you. When Gretchen Was Human by Mary A. Turzillo. Quotes. Oh, this is from the blurb. It's something the author says herself. Something so. My shitty headphones. Not everyone has a victim or a vampire inside them, but even those whose vampire self is weak understand that the inner monster is lonely and craves love while also fearing it. The passion that the vampire seeks and that the victim wants to give is an appalling and consecrated gift. It is a metaphor for the love between the tyrant and the willingly oppressed, or between the child and the parent who bleeds for the child's anguish. It's a very, very cool little thing to say. Oh, yeah, it's a, oh god, I had a little blurb about this. It's, just Gretchen falls in love with this guy who comes to her work because she works at a bookstore, and he's a vampire, and, I don't know, she's just like a dumpy woman. She's just a dumpy, lonely woman, and he just sleeps with her and turns her, and later she goes and turns her child. I think it's left ambiguous, but ambiguous in that she definitely did it. Which isn't ambiguous. That's how I read it, that she did do it. She did turn her child who has cancer. But Gretchen, Lambkin, a man like that you don't need, loner, crazy. But he listens. He's so understanding, like the butcher with the calf. Nice line of dialogue. Appreciate that. You didn't feel it when I kissed you? Feel ... He guided her index finger into his mouth, under the tongue. A bony little organ there, tiny spikes, retracted under the roof of the tongue. She jerked her hand away, suddenly afraid. He caught it and kissed it again, almost mockingly. I think that's a good, like, summary of their relationship, almost mockingly. It makes no difference that I love you, and suddenly she did love him. Tomorrow you'll know what hate is, too. Gretchen glanced at her reflection in a dead computer screen behind the nurse. She did look predatory now, like a wax mannequin, but also like a cougar, powerful, not like anybody's mother. Two other nurses drifted up, as if sensing trouble. She showed the nurse her driver's license. They almost believed her then, let her go down the hall to room 409. But still the nurse's eyes followed her. She had changed. That was like the last page, after she was already a vampire, with a funky little spiky thing under her tongue that you can feel when you make out with her. Love the writing style. Written by someone who knows how to write a short story. I like a mostly chill, mostly not monstrous monster. Yeah. You can kind of tell who has more experience writing short stories. The characters feel more real, more solid, even with less words. Or at least you can tell also who has made their main character. I flipped to The Vengeful Spirit of Lake Napika, which is by Tanya Huff, and you can tell, maybe not necessarily that she's good at writing short stories, but that, like, she has a series and this is a short story from that series, because again, the characters feel more real and solid. Only a vampire short story because Vicky Nelson is a vampire. Kind of a boring story and a boring choice for the collection. Turned out to be so hard to reread for this project. I forgot I was ranking them. I was just reading them. You guys, this is why I need someone to talk to me, because I didn't even realize I was doing that. Now I have to go back. Okay. Homewrecker, gross. When Gretchen Was Human. Where are we going to rank that one? I'm going to put it in the middle. Not because it's bad. Not much happens. Not much vampire happens. It's more of a story about the human condition, which is lovely and well written, but I like gore. I like gore and pain and blood. I don't want to know that you're a vampire just because you have a weird thing under your tongue. I want you to be a monster. It's still a good short story about the human condition, but I'm going to put it in the middle. When Gretchen Was Human. Gretchen Why am I capitalizing it like it matters? Right there. Okay. The Vengeful Spirit of Lake Napika. This one was so freaking hard to read again, to like mark up the parts that I liked. As I said, it is only a vampire story because the main character is a vampire, and that isn't even explicitly spelled out. They kind of wink nudge that she drinks the blood of her partner, and she's asleep during the day and awake at night. It's kind of more like a, if you know, you know. If you don't, you probably know kind of thing. And that was just really disappointing for a collection of short stories about vampires. Come on. There. Since it seemed they'd arrived, Vicky shut off the engine. After a heartbeat's silence, the night exploded into a cacophony of discordant noise. Hands over sensitive ears, she sank back into the seat. What the hell is that? Horny frogs. How do you know? She demanded. He gave her a superior smile. PBS. Because they're both city slickers, so them, like, the only time I've ever heard horny frogs from PBS. It's just a funny concept. By the time he reached the van, the 1 or 2 insects had become 29 or 30, and he felt the first bite on the back of his neck. When he slapped the spot, his fingers came away dotted with blood. Vicky's not going to be happy about that, he grinned, wiping it off on his jeans. By the 2nd and 3rd bites, he'd stopped grinning. By the 4th and 5th, he really didn't give a damn what Vicky thought. Her laugh was one of the things that hadn't changed when she had. Her smile was too white and too sharp, and it made too many new promises, but her laugh remained fully human. Like, I guess if you like this character, because she does have her own series, Vicky Nelson, it's like 5, maybe 6 books, and it's got a sister series too, or spin-off, and a TV show. So if like you like Mike and Vicky together, you may be more intrigued by this short story, but it didn't feel like I've read a couple of the books, I watched a couple episodes, and it just didn't feel like it needed to be written. Like, it was written to be written, not because it like has a place in their world and their story. It doesn't have to be a part of the story, but it just feels so unnecessary that it ends up being really boring. But, you know, that's just me. The writing isn't bad. The characters also feel real. As Tanya Huff, I can say, at least has a lot of books under her belt. God, where would I put this? Like, I feel like C is too mean. But you don't understand how hard it was for me to read this. For this, I fell asleep twice. I already knew what was going to happen, and I couldn't stand to reread it. I'm putting it in C. I'm sorry if you're a fan, but we disagree. The Vengeful Spirit of Lake Napika. Oh, well, it's too late. I can't change it. It's gonna make it smaller, so it takes up less space, because there's 30-some stories to go through. And this is why people use their fancy programs and not word paint. Okay. I can finally walk away from this short story and never read it again if I don't want to. I do intend, if like I keep this channel going for a while, I wouldn't mind coming back to the short this collection again, especially because hopefully there'll be more people or new people so we can experience it all together. It just won't be for a long time because I am freaking tired. My ADD brain is like, no, we're done. You do this now and we're putting this in a closet. We're not looking at it for like years. Put it down. Okay, Jesus. Okay, La Diente by Nancy Kilpatrick. What's this one about? It's immigrant woman from Ecuador moves to, I think she's in California somewhere. She's in California and she works as like a maid, and maybe she's not a maid. Maybe she's just a cook / possible maid to a family. And she receives a necklace of teeth from her family in the mail for some reason. I don't know. They pass the teeth down. It's been going from like grandma to grandkid to grandkid to grandkid forever. So she finally got it, and then she just has this memory of during a Day of the Dead ceremony, her family killed some dogs, and then I think they drank the dog blood, and she realized she has power, and she goes to have power over the patriarch of the family that she cares for. She gets paid more by the end of it. I said it's a rather cliche tale of a naive, young, poor immigrant girl from a poor family and country. But at least she ends up in a powerful position of the vampire rather than being taken care of by the American family. But yeah, I don't feel like I have the authority here to say whether or not it's like particularly a racist story about an immigrant girl, but it is very, very cliche. Like, she didn't really dig that deep to come up with like she's poor, she's naive, she's all alone, her family's poor, her government takes advantage of her, her family takes advantage of, you know what I mean? Not really like digging deep here for characterization. But here. She missed the food she had been raised on, rice and rich red and black beans, heavily spiced, sometimes with a little meat if the family could afford a CUI, and the flatbread. There was nothing like it here. She had made a traditional Ecuadorian meal when she first arrived. Mr. and Mrs. Richview ate a little, but the children would not even try. Mrs. Richview said that it might be best if she told Remedios exactly what foods to cook every week and how to cook them. I just really like reading other cultures and other people, and especially when they like describe like something about their culture that they love, like their food. Like I like American food, but I don't feel the same way about like hamburgers as I'm sure like other people feel about their other food. White people don't have that much culture. What was it? Remedios sucked on the guagua de pan that came from the basket of Dia de la Muertos bread her grandmother had baked that week. The little bread men and women representing the dead. This one had a red sugar eyes and bright green hair and lips, and she wore a colorful dress. She stuffed little Esperanza into her pocket to place later on the altar in their home, an altar that held a large picture of oh God, I remember I had trouble with this the first time. Saint Marianita de Jesus, and many, many candles. It would also hold some of the flowers they brought back home from the ceremony. Remedios felt hungry and wondered when they could return home and eat the good, thick locro soup and drink the hot purple jelly-like colada morada that her mother only made for the Day of the Dead feast. I really like that because, like, I know it's just delightful to remember being a child, and the parts of this ceremony are the bright, shiny things. Like, the adults are, like, remembering the people they've lost. And the kids are like, yeah, but I got candy. And I find that delightful and so sweet. And I kind of miss the simplicity of childhood in that way, you know? I didn't need to have a deeper reason for liking it, but that's what I picked out from the story. Culture that I don't have, that I wish I felt more connected to, and just being a child and thinking the candy at the funeral is tasty. Like, missing the point of the funeral. Though it's not a funeral, obviously. Okay, where would I put this? Not very high up. I'm sorry. Again, it was just like really cliche characters. I'm gonna put that in the middle somewhere. La diente. Cool, I can make that small. I made it too small. Now it doesn't want to move. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. There. Miss Massingbird and the Vampire by Tina Rath, or Rath, R-A-T-H. This one is very short. It's like 3 pages? Yeah. Let's see. Miss Massingbird just walks home through a cemetery at night, like usual, and she sees a vampire with a billowing cape, and she falls head over heels in love with him. Love at first sight. And then she ends up hanging out with a vicar, who then she falls in love with. It's so small and so fast. And very funny. And like I said, a sweet little story that has no reason to have vampires in it. The vampire could have just been a guy, just a normal dude, but instead she sees a vampire in the cemetery and falls in love with him at first sight, and then falls in love with a normal human. So what was the point? I don't know. He started to talk sensibly about their committee and asked Miss Massingbird her feelings on the Christmas bazaar, but Miss Massingbird simply crumbled the cake on her plate and smiled like Mona Lisa. She was, like, in her head, I guess, being all dreamy about her new love, and he was looking at her like, wow, she's beautiful. I really love the part about crumbling the cake on her plate and smiling like Mona Lisa. It's just sweet. And the final paragraph. Only sometimes, in the long green dusks of spring or the short red twilights of autumn, Miss Massingbird would walk alone in the churchyard for a while. She would come back looking greatly refreshed, if a little pale, and wind a silk scarf around her throat before going to the youth club, or the brownie meeting, or the parish council, and her husband would sigh a little and remind her to take her iron tonic. So funny, thinking that she's like cheating on her husband with the vampire in the cemetery still, and she has to wrap something around her neck and drink her iron tonic. Miss Massingbird and the Vampire. Very short. It has no reason to have vampires in it. I want to put it at A because it's charming, but I want to put it at B because why is there a vampire in it? There's no point. So funny. Can I put it in, make it A.5, a B.5, a B plus, put it right on the line. And the vampire. There, right there, right on the line, in between. We're gonna run out soon. Okay. The Raven Bound by Freda Warrington. I really sorry, my cat distracted me. Meow. Yes, I know you're awake. You don't have to cry at me. She's like, she has to declare she's here again by meowing as she leaves the room where she was napping. Yes, I'm talking about you. I'm doing something. Yeah. I really enjoy the image of a vampire being as drawn to their victims as their victims are to them. It's interesting to think that the relationship isn't healthy for anyone involved. And Charlotte and Carl feel a bit too forced into the story. How do they keep finding him when they do? Yeah, they like just keep appearing while he's like brooding somewhere, and it's a little odd. Like, they're there because they need to be there, because that's how the story goes, and not because it's like, oh, of course these people that we don't know would be right there where the main character is. A little forced. I have not been a vampire so very long. I still recall how hopeless such dilemmas seem to humans. That's terrible. His big hand wanders over my arm, my shoulder blade, my spine. It slides in between me and the woman and lies warm against my ribs. He's resting against my back. The three of us pressed together. Well, this is cozy. Grief will, I think, be interesting. It's a little hard to describe, but I know the main character is a vampire, and he meets a human somewhere in like a bar, and the human tells him that he hates his dad, and his dad is keeping him from the woman that he loves. So the vampire's like, oh, I'll just kill your dad. And the human's like, you will? Holy shit, do it. So he goes to his parents, his father's home, to kill him, but it turns out the woman the guy is in love with the dad. And then everybody sees each other, and then suddenly they're all in love, and it's like a four people polycule situation. Polycule? Is there another L in there? I don't know. It's a four-way situation. and then there's like these two vampires, Carl and Charlotte, who keep popping in and out, and are like, you shouldn't be doing this. And he's like, yeah, but I wanna. And they're like, yeah, but you shouldn't. And he's like, yeah, but I wanna. It makes me intrigued by the Carl and Charlotte characters, because I know they have their own separate story, and I like the tone of the main character. I like this grief, I think, will be interesting type of, well, this is cozy, how he's touching me kind of thing. I like that. It makes me intrigued by the Carl and Charlotte books, and I think it's all right, if a little bit forced. Apparently I have high expectations because nobody is hitting S yet. Sorry. I'm gonna put this in, honestly, I feel bad that only one person has gotten into A. It's fine. This is me. This is me. This is my truth. It's not your truth. It's my truth. And my truth says, this is a B material. This is B material. Ugh. Every time I make it too small, I can't make it too small. Okay. Trying to be anal about the size of my boxes. Vampire King of the Goth Chicks by Nancy A. Collins. Intriguing world building. Feels like a fully fleshed out world, which it is. Feels like a fleshed out main character too. I enjoy the gory, more explicit storytelling. The quartet of black leather-clad young rebels quickly leave the Red Raven, scurrying off as fast as their Doc Martens can take them. Vampires dislike such obvious layers. Hell, these aren't the Middle Ages. They don't have to hang out in ruined monasteries and family mausoleums anymore. Not that there are any to be found in the US anyhow. No, contemporary bloodsuckers prefer to dwell within warehouse lofts or abandoned industrial complexes, even condos. I really like that idea, that, like, if you're a vampire, you don't have to hang out in a ruined monastery. You can go to, like, a mall that's falling apart. Or not even that. You can just, like, have your own condo. Just buy a condo, you undead fiend. Duh. What are you? A loser? Shauna stands there, gaping up at the vampire lord as if he were Jim Morrison, Robert Smith, and Danzig rolled into one. I love all the call-outs to all the goth kids. It's just cute. I highlighted one line that I really didn't like. Because she's standing there. As I look down at this wretched human who has lived a life so stunted, his one driving passion is to become a walking dead man. I feel my memory slide back across the years to the night a foolish young girl, yada yada, got hurt. I remember this, I remember that, and then I remember how she was me. That really was a sentence, huh? Yeah, you really wrote that, huh? Yeah. Okay, I want to do another thing. I want to put it on the line again between A and B, which might sound like bullshit, but I like that it has such a strong world building to it. I like that this main character is so pissy. I don't know, I just like it. I like the story. I don't know how else to say it. Even if it's got a stupid line like, I remember how she was me. Like, I like that it's a lady out there hunting down fake vampires and getting pissed off when they're just goth people. And I like how pissy she is about goth people. And I just like her. I'm intrigued. I want more. I wouldn't say it's good, but I want more. So, I'm putting it on the line. Fight me. Do it. Seriously. Give me something to talk about. Fight me. Do. Not quite A, not quite B. Somewhere in the middle. Just His Type by Storm Constantine. How do I condense this? I should have been writing little, like, quick little things. Instead, I was just writing my thoughts. Okay, this dude writes books about mythical stuff, mythical books about vampires. And he meets a woman there who is very intrigued, and she wants to know more. All of the stuff that he can't put in a book or talk about publicly because it's too witchy woo-woo. She believes in that witchy woo-woo shit. So she's like, yes, I want to know more. Tell me what you're keeping from other people. And then things go wrong. I love the flip from Laura being a normal weirdo to some monstrous primordial being. There's like that moment where she goes from just being a weirdo to oh, something's gone wrong. I really like that. The deep ending that humanity is hiding from its own nastiness needs a little more work in the rest of the story for me to buy it. Yeah, it feels a little... I can't say it's not completely in the rest of the story, but it's like a character has a realization that you kind of wish had been worked a little bit more into the beginning, so that when they get there, you're with them there too. But that just may be my own pickiness. I'm willing to let that go, at least. For the rest of the evening, Abby refused to leave Noah's side. He knew why. Abby knew him too well. It was when his friend refused to leave him alone so that he wouldn't go over to the girl and flirt with her. Abby refused to leave his side. She knew him too well. In moments, I realized how we'd been playing with something inconceivably huge and beyond us. Something immeasurably powerful. We'd pulled at its skirts too insistently, and now it had noticed us. I've heard their voices whispering in my dreams since I was a child. I've seen their shadows in the curtains of my bedroom every night. I've felt their carrion breath on my face in the dark. I'm one of them, Noah. Not in this life, perhaps, but know them. I want to go home. Oh, okay. Yeah, I really like just his type, honestly. I think it's up there with, like, the Master of Rambling Gate. I think it's a really good story. Oh, there we go. There's one I missed. The food was rather lackluster, but it didn't matter, because Laura was sitting opposite him, and her smile seemed to enfold him in a hazy golden mist. They were both high on the sense of being secret conspirators. They were high on the potential of what might happen next. And I like the idea of vampires just being like old vulture shamans. I think it's a really interesting take on a vampire. And I like that it's just kind of still there. This primordial being is still around, and you just have to be able to speak to them to be able to speak to them. You know? You can't, like, not everybody can, but some people can. I don't know. It's just, like, it's just fun. It's fun. I love mythology. I love weird, gross, creepy vultures. I love when people flip from fun little weirdos to, oh, there's something wrong. I just liked it a lot. I don't know how else to say it, except I liked it. Ah, okay. Just his type. I'm going to put an A. This one, I think, would be cool if it was a book. But it got its point across very quickly, so it doesn't need to be. But it would be cool if this was expanded upon, maybe with other characters, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just very intrigued again. Do I foresee any stories getting S tier? Listen. I'm doing my... Don't judge me. Maybe, you know what? Prince of Flowers. I really like Prince of Flowers. Which is the next one. Thank you. What are the other titles? I don't remember. Yeah, I do think there's a few in here. My S tier is just very picky, I suppose. What are you gonna do about it? Fight me? Fight me. Fight me in the chat. Come on. Come on. Tell me what you think. Okay. Prince of Flowers. There it is. The descriptions are so lush, I can almost smell and feel it all myself. Very unique take on a vampire story. And I love the ending sentence. Nice and creepy. I did really like this one, not just because I got your little chat. Thank you. As she opened the box, dried flowers, seeds, and wood shavings cascaded into her lap. She inhaled, closing her eyes, and imagined blue water and firelight, sweet-smelling seeds exploding in the embers. She sneezed and opened her eyes to a cloud of dust wafting from the crate like smoke. Very carefully, she worked her fingers into the fragrant excelsior, kneading the petals gently until she grasped something brittle and solid. She drew this out in a flurry of dried flowers. Really like that imagery. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. Hours passed in total silence, weeks when she saw only 3 or 4 people, curators slouching in and out of their research cubicles. On Fridays, when she dropped off her inventory sheets, they smiled, occasionally even remembered her name, but mostly she was left alone, sorting cartons of bone and shale, prying apart frail skeletons of extinct fish as though they were stacks of newsprint. Like, don't you want to work in a museum and just touch old things all day long? I don't even blame her that she was stealing them. If I work in a museum, you better guard me, because I may be walking out with a couple gems. Helen's head blurred as well. She yawned, drowsy from the thick scents of roses, cloying honeysuckle, all the languor of summer nodding in an afternoon. She fell quickly asleep, lulled by the breeze in the stolen garden and the dozy burr of a lost bumblebee. She clawed through the streets, trying to dash it against the wall, but she could not move. Flowers spilled from her mouth when she tried to scream, soft fingers of orchids sliding down her throat as she flailed at the bedclothes. Okay, I will not read the last one because I don't have it highlighted, even though I say on my little sticky note that I liked it a lot. Yeah, I like that I don't have to believe in some love at first sight thing, which is what was against Master of Rampling Gate for me. Like, her having a friend who is kind of jealous, kind of irritated, but also concerned for her, going to check up on her, and then also being killed. I think it just works, all of it. It's a good story, and I really liked it. And I hope you guys liked it as much as I did, but I am such a sucker for, like, richly detailed stories. Prince of Flowers. I'm gonna put you up there. Hi. Hello. Doop. Services rendered by Louise Cooper. Oh, this one I liked a lot. Penny is such a relatable figure until she isn't. I like the emphasis on Penny being too angry and being incapable of rationality, and Carmine and Penny feel like fleshed out characters. This is when the husband is dying of cancer, so Penny puts out like a help wanted ad kind of thing in the newspaper, and she gets all kinds of weird calls. Carmine is one of them. She's a vampire. She turns her husband into a vampire, and then Penny is jealous of the both of them and then kills them both. I really like this because, like, I feel like Penny is really relatable. Like, sometimes you just meet people and you don't like them, and you feel like an asshole because you don't like them, because they're even doing good things for you, you know? And you're like, why am I even being like this? What am I doing? I don't know. I have to hold in all the mean things that I want to say until this social thing that we're doing together is over, so I can just go home and forget about you forever. But then your husband likes this person, so they keep dragging them back around you. And you don't even have a real reason to not want them around. You just don't like them. Oh, I spelled disrespectfully at the bottom. I spelled that wrong. Don't look at it. I understand, Penny. I wouldn't go so far as to start murdering people, but I like her a lot. Carmine walked noiselessly, which Penny found faintly unsettling. She fancied that if she were to turn her head, she would find nobody at all behind her, and that this whole encounter was a delusion. I like that one. You see, I'm a vampire. Penny pressed her forehead against the door frame and started to laugh. The laughter became hysterical, then turned into gulping, hiccuping sobs. Then she threw anything movable within her reach at Carmine, screaming abuse. Like, would you also start screaming and crying if somebody told you they could save your dying husband because they're a vampire? Relatable. She's so relatable. David had been what he was for 4 months now, and even in her meanest moments, Penny had to acknowledge that the condition had its advantages. Like, even in her meanest moments, even Penny acknowledges she has her mean moments. I appreciate that. Penny's bitterness was growing, and with it, a desperate desire to strike out, to hurt, because she was hurting, and she wanted Carmine to suffer along with her. Yeah. I would put this one in S tier too, honestly. I really like this one. I don't think it really needed any work at all to it. I think it was a pretty damn good story, all on its own. Services rendered. Yeah. I'm gonna put that up here too. See, I'm not that picky. I got 2 up here. Yeah. Okay. Aftermath by Janet Berliner. Berliner? B-E-R-L-I-N-E-R. Interesting little story, playing with mythology and history. I don't have a lot to say about this one. Meyer did not like his daughter's behaviors, but he accepted them as part of the changes wrought by childbearing, a process he did not pretend to understand. Unfortunately, no amount of their goodwill could change the nervousness of a community which had been so badly hurt by the passage of the years that they feared anything that might bring more trouble into their midst. God, I don't know how to summarize this one. If you know it, you know it. I'm not gonna rack my brain. Deal with it. Aftermath by Janet Berliner. Yeah, I really like it. I like the play with mythology. I like that the little girl is playing in a puddle of blood and drinking it, and everybody, and even her mother just stops and stares at her and is like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe you should do something with this child. I'm sad that the mother of the child didn't get more say in her own story before she died in childbirth. But it is like a mythology thing with like Muslims and Jewish people, and old-timey stuff doesn't really care about like female perspectives. So we're gonna put that. Let's see. I want to do another A-B. I feel like I'm cheating. I have to be more strict about this. Maybe I don't need to be. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in A, actually. I think it's a good story. Once again, I prefer books. So if it's good to me, I always wish it was longer. And I think the fact that I want it to be longer is a good thing. You know? It means I really liked it. So, Aftermath. I'm gonna put up here an A. Okay. One Among Millions by Yvonne Navarro. Hang on one second. Okay. Oh God, this one. This is a creepy, rapey story. This is the one that I stopped at when I was highlighting my favorite parts. Just this woman who is always running away. Sandra knew exactly when the vampire started stalking her and the babies. He just stalks her, and then it's like sexy rape. A lot of it is sexy rape. And it's kind of victim blamey too. Like, even the author's note at the beginning is a little victim blamey. Maybe not. I don't know. One Among Millions evolved from a pretty run-of-the-mill what-if question. Namely, what if you were being stalked by someone? From there, it grew to the stalker being a vampire. But why would a vampire do such a thing to an ordinary woman, unless the woman were anything but ordinary? AKA, why wouldn't he stalk her? She's one among millions. Of course he's going to stalk her. in have sex with her, even when she's explicitly said no, I don't want it, and to knock her up. And then his brother's going to find her and do exactly the same thing. Why wouldn't they? She's one among millions. No, creepy, bad, disrespectful. You're going in D. You're going to the shame pit, and you should feel shame in your pit of shame. Shame. One among millions. Bad. Feel bad about it. Luella Miller. Oh God. Oh God. I haven't read this one in so long. Luella Miller by Mary E. Wilkins-Freeman. Now I have to think of things to say that I haven't already written down. What is this one about? Close to the village street stood the one-story house in which Luella Miller, who had an evil name in the village, had dwelled. She had been dead for years, yet there were those in the village who, in spite of the clearer light which comes on a vantage point from a long-past danger, half believed in the tale which they had heard from their childhood. Oh yeah, this was written in well, I don't know. Early 1900s, it looks like. Maybe late 1890s. So it's got that whole vibe. Not old-timey, but old-timey vibe. Retro or something. There was only one person in the village who had actually known Luella Miller. That person was a woman well over 80, but a marvel of vitality and extinct youth. Oh God. Oh yeah, most of the stories in dialogue. Oh God. I feel... I should have prepared for this more. It's fine. We're gonna read chunks of it out loud until I remember what this is about. Luella Miller used to sit in a way nobody else could if they sat up and studied a week of Sundays, and it was a sight to see her walk. Okay. Eustace Miller was good looking too. Better looking than Luella. Sometimes I used to think that Luella wasn't too handsome. Oh, right. The people would worship her. I used to know him pretty well. He lived next door to me and we went to school together. They would just take care of her and take care of her and take care of her. Meanwhile, she stays fat and rosy, and then they die from not eating and not sleeping because she's taking it all from them. Lottie Henderson. But she died when Luella had been here about a year, just faded away and died. Nobody knew what ailed her. She dragged herself to that schoolhouse and helped Luella teach till the very last minute. The committee all knew how Luella didn't do much of the work herself, but they winked at it. It wasn't long after that she died, and then Lottie died, and then the guy married her, and then he died. I remember reading this, and I like classics. I like older stories. I'm not to make myself be some huge nerd or whatever, but I like these kinds of stories. I don't particularly love that it's all in dialogue, but it is an interesting way to tell a story, and definitely a stretch as a writer yourself to have someone talk and talk and talk. What am I even saying? I'm killing time. The next night there was a red gleam of fire athwart the moonlight, and the old house of Luella Miller was burned to the ground. Nothing is now left of it except a few old cellar stones and a lilac bush, and in summer a helpless trail of morning glories among the weeds which might be considered emblematic of Luella herself. Oh gosh, where would I put this? It's not particularly exciting for people in 2023, right? Because we have no qualms writing horrible murder stories and crazy thrillers and stuff. And a lot of the horror is just kind of hidden away in here. It's not exactly exciting, but it is intriguing. And especially intriguing to see an older ghost story where it's just a lady, it's not a ghost killing people, and her whole thing is basically being like chronically ill, and the people who take care of her die. That's right, it's kind of like demonizing people who are chronically ill and need caretakers, and they live happily on disability checks while the people who take care of them die of overwork. In that sense, it's not the best story, but I do know that I rather enjoyed it. I would put it at like a B and a half, but I'm trying not to put too many in the half point, or what's the point? May as well just have made 6. Yeah, I'm gonna say it'll be good in B. Luella Miller. Cautionary tale of what happens when you take care of people. One day they'll kill you. Sure they will, Grandma. Sangria by Lisa Tuttle. God, what's sangria about? Glenda stepped out of the shower and stopped before the mirror, her hair looped up and confined beneath a shower cap, her long neck bare, and made her eyes look larger and darker. You look Spanish. Can work some kind of you young white people. Debbie opened her mouth and desperately forced a yawn as the plane began to take off. As the air pressure stabilized, she turned to Glenda and said approvingly, "Your stepfather is good looking. Steve's not my stepfather." Well, whatever. They're getting married soon, aren't they? You know what? I think I remember this being kind of a nothing burger of a story. So she's sleeping with her stepdad? The room in Sylvia had 2 beds. Glenda had not yet known why, but coming to Sylvia after the noise and cars of Grey Madrid had felt like coming home. She had led Debbie through the winding streets as if guided by something, coming upon the little hotel and finding it perfect without feeling surprise. But at the same time, she felt giddy, her stomach clenched with excitement. I don't want to read this whole thing out loud, but like I genuinely only vaguely remember this story, which doesn't bode well to the story itself, right? There was someone on the balcony. Now he blocked the light. Now he moved and it illuminated him. There was the tightness of terror in her throat, but her mind clicked observations into her consciousness as unemotionally as a typewriter. He wore a cloak and some sort of slouch-brimmed hat. He made no move to enter the room. On the balcony. She was being stalked by some guy? What? Yeah. I kind of remember this. And like, I kind of remember feeling nothing for it. Because nothing really happened. Glenda smiled at the blackness beyond her window and touched her silver ring. She pulled it off and toyed with it, tracing the S on her finger. S for Steve. S for Spain. She suddenly caught the ring between her fingers and pulled at it, distorting the S shape, forcing it finally into a design like twin curved horns. Then she held it and clenched it tightly until the blood came. There was a bat at some point. Good God, you guys. I got nothing. Vaguely remember this story. And I don't think it's because I maybe only read it once compared to the others. Or that I haven't read it in a while. I mean, I don't think there's much here to remember. I'm gonna just put it in B. Just mid. Sorry if you liked it. I don't know what to tell you, but I don't even remember reading it. Or maybe I kind of do. Okay. Oh, this one. We go from did I even read this? Are we entirely sure I even read this story to, oh God, this one? A Question of Patronage, a Saint Germain story by Chealsea Quinn Yarbaro. This one I freaking hated reading. Like, it's, there's a rich dude coming to check out his accounts with some accountant bank people and figuring out that someone at their bank has been robbing him slowly over a long period of time. And then the guy he's working this out with tells him he wants to be an actor one day, and the other guy is like, well, since you've helped me keep this on the down low so it's easier for me to track these people, I will give you a bunch of money, you can go be an actor. And then we've helped each other out, and I'll feel a lot better about how much you've helped me if you let me help you. So that's what he does. The guy gets his accounts figured out, the other guy becomes an actor, and like the very last line, you're supposed to figure out that the rich dude with all the money is a vampire. because one of them is Henry Irving or something. I swear to God, the author's note like tells you. Toying with the possibilities, I finally hit upon Henry Irving, Bram Stoker's boss. I had a look at a few references about him, hoping to find a time I could slip Saint Germain into his life. The beginning of his career seemed more attractive to me than when he was well established, as well as giving an indirect link to Stoker, making Saint Germain someone Stoker might hear about but never meet. It was like, yeah, there's a vampire in here. Wink. Wink, wink, there's a vampire in here. If you know history, and if you know anything about Dracula, and if you know anything about the guy who wrote Dracula, and if it's like, babe, please, I want a dude with fangs biting somebody and killing them. I don't want this guy maybe being a vampire because he's really old and rich. You know, like, I want vampires. There's no vampires in this vampire story. You tricked me. You tricked me with a really boring story, too. It's just a guy with a lot of money who thinks another guy is stealing from him. And it isn't even like a cops and robbers, we've, like, followed them around through the streets thing. It's literally just sitting there with a book, a whole book of your, invoices and being like, oh, there's some missing here. There's some missing there. Like, it's not even an interesting story. I don't even know how they stayed awake writing their own story. I don't need to be this grumpy. I do want to put it in the D tier, not because it's too creepy, but because I'm feeling disrespectful towards it. I'm gonna do it. And I won't feel bad. I'll feel a little bad. I'm feeling a little bad, but I'm doing it anyway. A Question of Patronage. Patronage, yeah. Good God. If you're gonna write a vampire story, give me vampires. Don't give me a guy who could be, I suppose, because he's kind of related to the guy who wrote the book about vampires that one time. Hisako-san by Ingrid Pitt is the story that was too racist for me to read. Gonna put that in the disrespectfully already. Hisako-san. It's just like, Hisako. Well, for one thing, if you're Japanese, your last name isn't going to be San. Your last name may be San if you're Chinese. Don't quote me on that. San is an honorific like Mr. or Mrs., but it goes at the end of the word. So you wouldn't have an honorific as a last name. We don't have Rachel, Mr. Rachel, Mrs. We don't have those as last names. So it's already weird that her name is Hisako-san. Like, that's wrong. And then there's other things, like she's been living in a bubble, but she knows kung fu, martial arts moves, and is capable of taking down anyone, and is also like walking around in a sexy kimono. like European version sexy kimono, not like a Japanese version of whatever a sexy kimono is. There's just a bunch of little like microaggression type, like, I'm not Japanese. I'm an anime nerd. I know enough culture to know that this story is just off. And I don't want to contribute to spreading it around the world. If you want to read it yourself, go ahead. Hisako-san by Ingrid Pitt. But I'm putting it in the disrespectfully pile. No, thank you. I'm good. At least give her an actual last name. Jesus. Butternut and Blood by Kathriyn, Ptacek. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. What is this one even about? Good Lord. Let's see. He first saw her on the autumn night when the temperature plunged towards freezing, and the stink of smoke combined with that of dying leaves and dying men. Oh, right. John Francis Foster had himself been wounded just 3 days ago in battle, and after lying a full day in a chill, rainy night on the blood-soaked field, there were not enough able-bodied men to collect the wounded and dying. He had finally been located and brought in. There's a woman who goes around the camp where all the people are injured and just kills them one by one. But she does it in a sexy way. I think she, like, has sex with them and then kills them. And he tries to tell people that he sees this woman doing this, but nobody believes him. And finally, it ends with her killing him. I thought it was pretty good. What was her name? I wrote down how to say her name. Ariadne. It's like a mythological name. Mythology. Mythical. Something like that. A woman in this hellish place was an odd sight. Realized for all the nurses save one were male, mostly Marines assigned to this duty. Perhaps this woman was one of the civilians from a nearby farm or town, come to visit the wounded, come with gifts of food, come to cheer them up. I actually don't know if that's true or not. Were all the nurses males? Usually, maybe not Marines, but like soldiers? Probably? But that does make me question. But also not question. We like to think of nurses as women, but we also don't like to give women jobs, especially before they could own their own bank accounts. I'm trying to remember if there was any flaws. But I think this was one of those that was like perfectly exactly the length it needed to be to tell its story. And it left me wanting to know more about this time period and, like, you know, medicine and what it's like to be wounded in war and what the genders of the nurses were and things like that. It was really intriguing for me. I really like this one, actually. I don't think I have any complaints. Oh, that's right. That is right. I forgot. This guy, like, hints that he had slaves. That's right. I was, like, reading it, and, like, there was these hints sprinkled in that the main character owned slaves, and he just wanted to go home to his family on his southern, what do they call those? Plantations. With hopefully the slaves are still there and haven't been freed, and also they like him. Oh, my God. I forgot about that. Thank God I remembered. Yeah, so it's cool that he died because he owns a plantation and slaves and thinks of them as happy people that like to work with him. No, have fun being murdered. Cool. But what am I going to rank this? A slave owner died. That's pretty S tier for me. pretty S tier for me. Fuck. Butternut and blood. And blood. Yeah, sure. We'll put it up in S tier because his slave owner dies. I'm fine with that, honestly. And it was a pretty interesting story either way. A little boring because he just wakes up, people die, it's nighttime, she kills someone. He wakes up, people die. It's nighttime, she kills someone, and it takes like 4 days for it to finally get to him or something. But a slave owner dies, and you know what? That's worthy of S tier. Sleeping Cities by Wendy Webb. What is this one about? With shovels and picks, they attacked the hard earth, breaking it into jagged pieces to exhume what lay below. Men and women, working shoulder to shoulder, sweated with the effort, but continued without complaint, without a spoken word to break the cadence. Last week, their priority was the land and growing food for the masses, an honorable duty. It was necessary work for survival. Coming back to me a little bit. Walking the underground chambers, he had considered his choice carefully. The moment he had waited for would not be until all the armies were fully exhumed, but enough had been carefully dusted. Right, the Chinese terracotta soldiers. They were trying to dig them up. But why? His terracotta army of 10,000 soldiers in preparation for death. The victim had not been the first stunned by greed, curiosity, or even vengeance. Yeah, but why? Far away, the howling. Drop of blood touched the fighter's lips. Then a second. He moved to the compassionate child, repeated the act, then waited. Unacceptable as the emotion was, why did he try to bring them back to life? They were small, much smaller than the terracotta army, and stood only 2 feet tall. Unlike the sculpted and painted clothes of the armies of the guy I can't say, these smaller figures had worn garments of silk and other fine materials. Stroked the cold face of a small soldier. Its eyes revealed compassion. The mouth remained upturned ever so slightly in an embarrassed smile. And that one. Here the cheekbones were high, the eyes direct, mouth set. This one was a fighter determined in a personal goal. Each face was different in their beauty and their varied range of human emotion. There was pride, innocence, high-spiritedness, and there was something else, youth. Lou gasped in recognition and sudden joy. They were children. The children had waited for over 2,000 years to come out of the dark. And then I think he tries to do a little ceremony to bring them to life and give them some blood, but it doesn't work. So he just goes back to trying to get the terracotta army out or something. I think it's an interesting take. Interesting to think of, like, but also kind of obvious. Like, everybody looks at that terracotta army and thinks, damn, they're so detailed. It's almost like they're alive. So the thought would follow, okay, but what if they could come alive again? There's not, like, that much imagination or ingenuity in the in the idea of this story, which is really mean of me to say, I guess. Possibly. I feel bad. What do I remember about this? I remember not really the plot still, but I remember feeling very meh. Like, it could use more work, more ideas, more reworking. Like, I wish they'd, instead of publishing it, just, like, kept it in a drawer and pulled it out in a couple years and then, like, rewrote it all. Concept beginning to end. It's okay, but it could be good. And I'm gonna run with that. Honestly, because I don't remember feeling or thinking anything else before. So, I'm going to put Sleeping Cities in B again. Should I put it in C? I found myself standing in Beijing's square a few months after the conflict witnessed around the world. Activity in the square had returned to the honorable duty of jobs, family, and order and tradition, all under what seemed watchful eyes. During that trip, there seemed a consistency among the people and something unspoken and elusive, even though they were always kind to me. An outsider who does not belong and never will might speculate that such behavior was rooted in culture or genetics, perhaps directed by those watchful eyes. I don't know. In sleeping cities, I wondered what would happen to an otherwise honorable man who chose to be different from the vast population above ground, as well as those interred below. Doesn't give me any insight. I'm gonna put this in B, because I am done thinking about it. Sleeping cities. If you have any memories of this frickin' story, or think it deserves more than just B, tell me, because I have nothing going on in this head. It is empty, rattling around in confusion. Which I think gives it enough of a reason to be there. Didn't make as much of an impact as I wanted it to. Okay. The Haunted House by E. Nesbit. Right. This one. It was by the merest accident that Desmond ever went to the haunted house. He had been away from England for 6 years, and the 9 months leave taught him how easily one drops out of one's place. He wanted someone to talk to, and there was no one. Meantime, he lounged on the horsehair sofa with the advertisements, and his pleasant gray eyes followed line after line with intolerable boredom. Then suddenly, "Hello," he said, and sat up. This is what he read. A haunted house. Advertiser is anxious to have phenomena investigated. Any properly accredited investigator will be given full facilities. Address by letter only, Wilden Prior, and then blah, 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 London. And he thinks Wilden Prior is a guy he went to school with. So he contacted him and said, "Hey, want to hang out? I'll look for your ghost." And the other guy contacted back and said, "Sure." But it turned out it wasn't his friend. It was just some old guy with the same name. And the old guy tricked him by saying, "Oh, that was my nephew. We just have the same name. I'll contact my nephew, tell him you're here. Why don't you just stay until I get word back?" And then creepy things start happening to him. But it's really just the old guy lying. There is no nephew. He just has this same guy's name or whatever. And was he like experimenting on them in that like special, we don't quite understand science yet, science fiction 1900s type of way? When was this written? I don't think it says. Oh, the following story was originally published in December 1913 under a pseudonym. What is it? I tried to warn you. What was he doing to him? I don't know. He was just experimenting on him or something. Desmond, despairingly conscious of growing physical weakness, caught himself in a real wonder as to whether this might not be a dream, a horrible, insane dream, and he could not wholly dismiss the wonder, because incredible things seemed to be adding themselves to the real horrors of the situation, just as they do in dreams. This is another one of those things where it's like, for its time period, it may have been cool, but as it is, there isn't much to it. And frankly, I suspect there wasn't much to it when it was originally written either. Or we would like have heard about this short story outside of this collection. You know, it would be like Frankenstein, but The Haunted House by E. Nesbit. In some circles, I'm sure it's cool, but nah. Vampire-wise, was he taking his blood? He had to have been, right? So you see, the elixir of life is really the blood. The blood is the life, you know, and my great discovery is that to make a man immortal and restore his youth, one only needs blood from the veins of a man who unites in himself blood of the 4 great races. The 4 colors, black, white, red, and yellow. Your blood unites these four. I took as much as I dared from you that night. I was the vampire, you know. But your blood didn't act. The drug I had to give you to induce sleep probably destroyed the vital germs. And besides, there wasn't enough of it. Now there is going to be enough. Like, as, like, a fan of old stories where we're, like, just playing with the concept of science fiction and we haven't figured it out quite yet, it's fun. It's a fun little treat. But, like, a story about vampires in a vampire collection, it's just okay. There's a guy who takes advantage of you, and everything is solved by the end. I can't put it that high. I'm sorry. But I would love to have a collection like this one day of stories. Oh, I can't see the screen very well. That's my fault. The haunted house. We will get to another good story or two. Not everything is going to be B. I swear. Hopefully. How far are we? 300 pages into 500 page book, so maybe about halfway. Turkish Delight by Roberta Lannes. Lannes. What the fuck is this one about? Traditional vampire stories only intrigue me in one way, that being the seduction. Nowadays, even that has been superseded by the impulsive, compulsive vampire of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Dracula 2000 who attack, drink, and run. I wanted to write something more subtle, more about the vampires we meet in our everyday lives, those that take something vital to ourselves against our will, yet by seduction or manipulation are far more real and frightening than the bloodsuckers. In the following tale, Andrew has something of value to himself and to those whose lives are empty of that which keeps us delighted and full of wonder. Is this about children? Wait, is this about a kid? The walk home from school took Andrew up a long road to Green Street, where he lived with his mother and Aunt Molly. 2 doors down from Andrew's house was an old nailer's cottage. Tourists sometimes stopped by to look into its dusty windows and see the old tools and furnishings of the 18th century nail-maker's shop. Today, as Andrew trudged up the cobbled road, he saw an unfamiliar old man and a boy about his own age staring into the cottage window. Right, and then the kid dies. And his mom is mean to him, but his aunt takes care of him. There was just an accident at the triangle. The young boy crossing with his granddad got hit by a lorry just a few minutes ago. And then later he sees his friend, Frank, with the same old man, and he tries to save him. Frank wasn't in school the next day. Andrew wanted to share his discoveries about Turkey with him, not that it was a kind of thing Frank would have wanted to know. Turkey was right near Russia. Is Frank at home? We're going to figure out what this story is about. It's none of your business what Frank Delaney does with his life, Andy, and if he wants to run off with the queen, he can, but you have your own life to live. His mother started on him before dinner, and it was now his bedtime. His auntie had listened carefully and said, "What a shame." But when his mum got home, Molly retold Andrew's story with unusual histrionics. She used expressions like kidnapped and pedophile, working his mum into a frantic state. And if he was kidnapped, all the better, then that you keep away from that boy. Frank finds trouble where there isn't any. Isn't that right, Molly? Right, and then he is taken. He's taken by the guy. The old man takes him and not his friend. And then he ends up... There is a rich family on a huge estate in Turkey. Granddad told Andrew once he was on an airplane, strapped into a seat in first class, 33,000 feet up in the air, that he would one day help him find his father. For now, though, there was an ancient and revered family waiting just for him in a home far grander than anything he could imagine, where he would never feel lonely again. Oh my god, that's right. This is such a downer ending. What a sad story. Some old lame guy. what an odd story. Andrew realized then, too late, that the words his mom and auntie had bantered about that evening 2 days ago, kidnapped and pedophile, now related to him. He told Granddad this, but the old man denied it. Andrew had been chosen. He was special. No one would ever touch him in that way. He was a sacred vessel. Everything the old man said was full of vagaries and obfuscations. Andrew couldn't get a straight answer. When he saw the great mansion, he still hoped that his father really was inside and that Granddad had just been playing around with him. Within were many other boys and girls, some near his age, some younger and far older. They spoke many languages and dressed in white from neck to toes. Andrew felt emboldened by pride in having been chosen. No one had really noticed Andrew before, at least not to pick him out from all the others. And never before Frank Delaney. Perhaps this gave him power. He could survive this. There's more food than you can dream of downstairs. Go find the dining room. I'm trying to decide how much I like this one. Because, like, in the end, it's really disturbing, which doesn't necessarily make for a story that I care about. Like, you can be disturbed by something but not feel any real connection to it. And I don't know if it's because the main character is so small, like young, or because I just don't feel anything for the characters. Like, yeah, I want this Andrew kid to not be trapped in this horrible situation with this horrible granddad and old lady that I see in here. But I don't feel like we've examined the human condition or studied any characters or even did anything all that interesting with vampires. It's an odd duck of a story where it's just sitting there and I'm going, huh, okay. But not feeling any real connection to it. I wonder if anybody really does. Not that I have to. Sometimes you just have a story and it's like huh, that's an odd duck. And then you move on with your day. I hope that's what they were intending on. But it doesn't make me particularly interested in rereading it. I'm gonna put it in B. Turkish Delight. Are we all thinking of the wizard, the wardrobe, the witch, the wizard, the wardrobe, and the kid who like sold out his family for Turkish Delight? I think I only watched the movies. I don't know if that is an intended thing here. Probably. What's the history of Turkish Delights? Are there a lot of children who would sell out their families for some in the UK? I don't know. Let me know. Venus Rising on Water by Tanith Lee. This one I know I liked. So far, I've written 7 novels about vampires, or types of vampire, and quite a lot of short stories of various lengths. Vampirism, to me, is one of those themes where somehow another idea or twist is always making itself known to me. I don't know why I started reading that. It's a habit to start reading the, the little blurbs. My bad. This one is definitely like a sci-fi-esque. I think it's the one with the evil painting. Yeah. Like long hair, the weeds grew down the facades of the city over ornate shutters and leaden doors into the pale green silk of the lagoon. 100 ancient mansions crumbled. Some I don't care about reading this. Where's the stuff? She goes to this fallen down old house. Her knock sent hard blobs of sound careering around the vault of greenish crystal space that was the city's morning. They seemed to strike peeling walls and stone pilasters 5 miles off. From the house itself came no response, not even the vague sense of something stirring like a serpent in sleep. "Now this is too bad," said the girl to the silence, upbraiding it mildly. "They told me a caretaker would be here in time for the boat." In the facade of the Palace of the Planet was another door plated with green bronze. I don't know. I just remember like this really creepy, weird painting that like swallows her or something. And it was very sci-fi and a different take on a vampire instead of the guy in the cloak. A painting. Jonquil Hare leaned on the chest and stared in. Presently, she took hold of the elaborate and gilded frame and got the picture angled upward a short way, so it too leaned on the chest. The painting was probably 3 centuries old. She could tell that from the pigments and disposition of the oils, but not from the artist. The artist was unknown. In size, it was an upright oblong about 15 meters by 1 meter in width. It was a full-length portrait. She looked like a woman about the main character's age. I don't need to read all of this, but yeah. No, I remember how weird this story was. I really enjoyed it. Like, really. I want to reread this now, actually. Like, everybody stop and let me read this, like, 30-page story real quick. I don't think it's that long, actually. How long is it? I know it was one of the longer ones when I read it. It's about 23 pages. I really like this one. I don't remember any problems with it. I don't think she owned slaves. I don't think I'm sitting on that one. I do want to put it up here in S tier, like genuinely, because I remember my excitement from when I first read it, and I still feel it flipping through it now. I want to reread it, and I want to see what else Tanith Lee has read. You want me to read it out loud? You can hang out with me in person. You know where I live. Venus Rising on Water. I'll grab a little chunk. I'll read like a paragraph or two for anybody who missed it. Let's see. The picture of Jonina, painted by the astrologer on a piece of membranous bluish alien skin, had fallen over in its frame, and now the framed skin pulled itself along the floor, and, catching the light, Jonquil saw the little formless excrescence of the face-down canvas, little bluish-yellow paws hauling the assemblage forward, the big balanced oblong shape with its rim of gilt vaguely shining, machine-like, primeval, a mutated tortoise. It pulled itself on, and as the frame scraped along the floor, it screamed towards Jonquil in the doorway. Jonquil slammed shut the door. She turned and caught up things, the inflatable bed, the table, and stuffed them up against the doorway. And the mechanical tortoise screamed twice more and struck against the door, and the door shook. Jonquil turned round and round in her trap as the thing outside thudded back and forth, and her flimsy barricade trembled and tottered. There was no other exit but the window. She got it open and ran on to the balcony, which creaked and dipped. The weed was there, the bluish-green Venus weed which choked the whole city. Jonquil threw herself off into it. As she did so, the door of the room gave way. Yeah, I remember really liking it, so don't put that in S tier. I wish my ADD brain had let me highlight more of the parts. At least one story I did end up highlighting, but it wasn't until the very end here. Yeah. Over in Bootleg. Bootleg, I think, was a creepy story. Anyway. Year Zero by Gemma Files. What the frick was this one about? At the very height of the French Revolution, after they killed the king and drank his blood, they started everything over. New calendar, new months, new history. Wind back the national clock and smash its guts to powder. Wipe the slate clean and crack it across your knee. A failed actor named a guy. I drew up the plans. The first year of this process was to be known as year 0. Everything that happened next would be counted from then on, and all that had happened before would be, very simply, gone. This is vaguely familiar. Also, there was a lot of French words I didn't know how to pronounce because you can see my handwriting all over the side telling me how to read it. Over the decades since Jean Guy last walked this part of Paris, Napoleon's civil engineers have straightened out most of the overhanging tangle of back alleys into a many-spoked wheel of pleasant, tree-lined boulevards and well-paved, if bleakly functional streets. Illuminating. With Jean Guy adding mentally, if we were all such reasonable men once upon a time, and the revolution, our lovely daughter, sprung full-blown from that same reason, a bare-breasted Athena clawing her way up to daylight through the bloody ruin of Zeus's shattered skull. What the frick is this story about? At the Bal des Morts, participants' dance cards were filled according to their own leftover notoriety, for who in their family might have actually gone to good Dr. Guillotine's machine, or who their family might have had a hand in sending there. Aping executed and executioners alike, they dressed as corpses in preen like resurrected royalty. Beneath his high blah blah blah. Jean Guy wakes to twilight, to an empty street, that angry crowd which formerly assembled to rock and prison the Chevalier du Pren de Grace's escaping coach, apparently having passed on to some further, more distant business. He lies sprawled on a pile of trash behind the butcher's back door, head abuzz and stomach lurching, though whether the nausea in question results from his own physical weakness. Blah, blah, blah. May the goddess of reason herself strike me dead if we didn't think you lost forever, citizen, murdered maybe, or even arrested like all the other committee members. And now, a momentary disclaimer, let it be here stated with as much clarity as possible that Jean Guy had never, hitherto, given much credence to those old wives' tales, which held that aristos glutted their delicate fingers at the mob's expense, keeping themselves literally fat with infusions of carnal misery and poor men's meat. Pure rhetoric, surely, folk tales turned metaphor, as quoted in Camille Desmoulins's incendiary pamphlets. Church and nobility vampires observed the color of their faces and the pallor of your own. I think this is trying to say that the people who take down the rich are themselves the vampires. And now, the parallel approach to Du Moyer's former apartment, past and present, blending neatly together as Jean Guy scales the rickety staircase toward that last long-locked door, its hinges stiff with rust. I have no idea. What the fuck is this story about? Someone tell me, because I think it is that the poor that kill the rich are the vampires, which is deeply, deeply annoying. With Jean Guy's sight narrowing to embrace nothing but those empty eyes, that mouth, those teeth, his disease-made flesh, made terminal, his destiny, buried too deep to touch or think of till it dug itself free once more. I am not just this, damn you, he thinks, as though it's an equally silent, desperate reply. Not just your prey, your pawn, your tool. I am someone grown and bred entirely apart from your influence. Okay. I do remember this vague feeling of, I don't know what I'm reading. I'm very confused. Possibly that the rich are vampires of the poor. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, maybe. I just got a flash of memory. I'm tired now. I was tired when I was reading this. And the way that it's formatted I think it flips between time or thoughts. It was just really hard to understand what was happening. And it was even harder to read and have other people understand what they're reading. I think this is too convoluted. It was then, it is now. I still can't really tell you, because it's like I can't like zero in on a piece of text and be like, oh, that's what it's saying, because of the way it's formatted. It's a little too artistic. It's a little too confusing. Sorry if you guys liked it. I hate that because I didn't prepare that I'm not gonna like it as much as somebody who does really like this story. Yeah, it's just a little too confusing. I can't really tell what it wants me to know. But this was the entire point of my revolution, John Guy remembers suddenly, that all men were slaves no matter their estate, so long as kings and their laws ruled unchecked, and that we should all of us, no matter how high or low or high or mixed, our birth either rise up, take what was ours, live free, or die. Die quick, die clean. Make your last stand now, citizen, while you still have the strength to do it, or never. It occurs to me, the Chevalier says slowly, that after all this, we still do not know each other's given name. Whatever else John Guy promises himself, with one last coherent thought, I will not allow myself to beg. A spark to oil this last heart's flare, he turns for the door, lurching up, only to find the Chevalier upon him, bending him backward by the hair. Convoluted. I do get that. It's very arty. Yeah, artsy. I mean, I don't know how good my camera is. You can't really see it, but there's just like a lot of like the formatting. Very choppy and italic, and I'm not really sure who's talking, and yeah. I'm gonna give it a B. I mean, I'm not saying I dislike it. I just wish it was better. Year 0. Good Lady Duquesne by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Bella Rolleston had made up her mind that her only chance of earning her bread and helping her mother to an occasional crust was by going out into the great unknown world as companion to a lady. She was willing to go to any lady rich enough to pay her a salary, and so eccentric as to wish for a hired companion. 5 shillings told off reluctantly from one of those sovereigns which were so rare with the mother and daughter, and which melted away so quickly. Oh my god, this is a long sentence. Yeah, I remember this one. It's another one where the kind of there's an old lady caretaker, and the convoluted, listen, leave me alone, okay? No one asked. Maybe it is convoluted. Leave me alone. God, what was I saying? Right, it's another one where there's a lady. She's old. She has a caretaker. All of her caretakers die. So but I think it's her doctor who's hurting them, and she ends up running away and falling in love and getting married and surviving, so it's fine. When was this written? Feels like one of those older ones. Oh god, we're back in year 0. Aha. Late 1800s. She died in 1915, so. And a lot of what she wrote was between 1860 and 1890 something. It looks like, at least according to this. This following novella appeared in the Strand magazine just a year before Bram Stoker published Dracula. It was one of the first tales to feature an unconventional incarnation of the undead, in which a non-supernatural vampire exploits a dependent relationship with her victim. It also has some interesting things to say about the role of women in British society at that time. I can't remember if it's the doctor doing it independently or if the good lady Duquesne is asking him to hurt people. But I think it's like one of those blood swap things. But yeah, she just takes care of her and she gets worse and worse and worse. But there's a doctor who's like, there's something going on here, and he manages to save her. It's an interesting thought, idea of a vampire. Though it is another one of those, this person who is disabled, the people around them are dying. Are they really that disabled? Ooh, gotcha there. Maybe the victim is the real perpetrator, but I'll give them a pass for it being like 1897 or something. Take the girl away and let me hear no more of her, cried Lady Duquesne in the thin old voice which so poorly matched the energy and fire of the wicked old brain that guided its utterance. Let her go back to her mother. I want no more girls to die in my service. There are girls enough and to spare in the world, God knows. If you ever engage another companion or take another English girl into her service, Lady Duquesne, into your service, I will make all England ring with the story of your wickedness. I want no more girls. I don't believe in his experiments. They have been full of danger for me as well as for the girl. An air bubble, and I should be gone. I'll have no more of his dangerous quackery. I'll find some new man, a better man than you, sir, a discoverer like Pasteur or Virchow, a genius, to keep me alive. Take your girl away, young man. Marry her if you like. I'll write a check for £1,000 and let her go and live on beef and beer and get strong and plump again. I'll have no more such experiments. Do you hear, Paravicini? She screamed vindictively, the yellow, wrinkled face distorted with fury, the eyes glaring at him. Can you imagine a world where an old woman is the real villain? Shocking. Shocking. How all of our problems can be boiled down to this one old lady causing them. One old British lady. I think it's okay. I don't feel bad putting it in the upbeat because, you know, it was written in its time period, and that's okay. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just like they swapped blood or something, which makes it significantly less dangerous and just not that interesting. Convoluted. Yes, I said it wrong. Also, I need to move this slightly. Oh, we've been streaming for a while. Okay, we are not almost done. There's quite a few left. Damn. How many are left? Lunch at Charon's by Melanie Tim. This is going on longer than I thought it would. That would be 26 out of 35. So 11. Oh, well, one of them is a poem. I mean, the Irish can relate, having dealt with Margaret Thatcher. The Irish can relate, having dealt with the British in general. Period. Lunch at Charon's. Melanie Tim. Amy Algieri is dead. That's 3 out of 4, leaving only me. I heard about Amy at the gym this morning. She didn't work out, obviously, but she and my personal trainer, Vonda, were close. Amy'd been Vonda's physics professor in college, and a friendship had developed. A massive stroke, she told me, keeping a critical eye on my workout. Out of the blue, she was in the grocery store and just collapsed. The baby was in the grocery cart. The main character is the vampire, and she's like a woman getting older, in her 40s maybe, just obsessed with youth and being strong and beautiful. Works out like every freaking day. Let's see. I actually like to indulge in these kinds of stories. I'm making less sense as I go because I'm getting sleepy from all of the thinking. I do like, I can critique playing with women being the villains because, of course, a woman who wants to be thin and beautiful is the vampire. Sexism. But I also like playing with that too. And I don't like dislike people who want to play with that idea. I feel a lot of draw towards that like really selfish, self-involved like middle schooler that I was back when I was obsessed with Gossip Girl, the books, not the TV show, because the TV show wasn't out yet, and like being like this perfect teen girl who has bulimia, like the character, oh god, Blair, and like is but is always like effortlessly beautiful like Serena, and like just rich and like can do anything and just very selfish and self-involved. I'm very drawn to that part of me and watching it play out in stories and watching these people who aren't like me but who I could have been and who I kind of was at one point but I grew out of, you know. So I like that she's terrible, and I like that she's the vampire, and I like that she latches on to the women in her life and then just fucking uses them and takes their youth from them and stays flawless and wonderful. Yeah. And I like that she gets a little gay with it and doesn't care, because like I don't think vampires should care about sexuality. I don't think vampires should have, and well, no, that's a weird way to say it. All vampires are bi. And if you're not a bi vampire, I don't understand you. Because you're preying on things. What does it matter what gender your blood that you're receiving is, you know? God, what is even the point? Do I like this story? I think that I did. I believe that I did, yeah. That it touched that part of me that likes. But as I regarded myself in every possible mirror and combination of mirrors, I saw death encroaching, saw my organs aging, my hair graying and thinning, the skin of my elbows wrinkling like dried fruit, saw the crab walk of deterioration advancing. The effort it took to keep all this at bay, one day, one procedure, one friend at a time, was staggering. I could scarcely do anything else. But yeah, like, she goes out to eat with her friend who's dying of cancer. I just liked it a lot. People said nice things to me all afternoon, a weird but gratifying phenomena for a memorial service. You look great, Madison. You look younger every time I see you. I thanked them lightly and tried to settle on just the right way to think about Kit. In a memorial service. I think she killed Kit. Oh my god. Maybe we can't finish this ranking tonight because I don't have enough caffeine and I'm tired. Which makes me feel bad. I'm sorry, you guys. We may not be able to finish this. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna rank this as a good one. I'm gonna put this in A, honestly. I think it deserves it. I think it was a good story, but I may reread it for real and come back with you with another answer next stream. Lunch at Sharon's. I am disabled and I am tired. And this is not the ultimate ranking. This is the ultimate ranking part 1. Accidentally. My bad. There's still like 10 stories to go over. And yeah, hey, if I give myself another week, maybe I'll reread the last couple and have a better thing to say besides, I think I didn't like it. Sorry about that, everyone, and thank you for making it all the way here, including you, Mr. Fishby, my weirdo. Oh, like Charon, the ferryman across the river Styx into the underworld? Possibly. Probably. Honestly, I think they lunch there a lot. It's like her favorite place to go because it's hip and trendy and cool. And she tries to be hip and trendy and cool. So yeah, that would make sense that there's that symbolism there. Okay. I need to log off. And I need to take a nap or something. Thank you for making it all the way over here to the end of the stream. I really appreciate it. Sorry we didn't finish it. I didn't intend for there to be a part 2, but there's going to be, because there's like 10 left. I'll try to read some of them and have better things to say next time. Thank you. I do this every week at Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.